Hello and welcome to round 6 of the Season 11 here at caterhamracer.com, the grand final of Season 11. We will tonight crown our champion, Chris Hutchinson, in the commentary box with you for this 125-minute race. We're just finishing off qualifying as the action you can see in the background. But we've had a tremendous season so far, and it's all come to a combination of all the drivers earlier in the season who have qualified have now got their place in the grand final to then see whether they can win this race and be crowned our champion. We are here at the Kazan ring, not a track that we're that familiar to many of our viewers, but we've been all over the place over the course of this 6-week race season. And we started in Estoril 6 weeks ago. Then we headed over to Hidden Valley, Road America and Road Atlanta, completed our standard qualification sessions. And then last time out we were at Portimao to have the last chance saloon, the last chance for drivers who hadn't yet qualified to get into this grand final. And now we are here at the grand final, round 6 at Kazan ring, just before Christmas. Time to get an early Christmas present maybe for one of our drivers. So we have, I think, 14 drivers due to be on the stream this evening, the qualification drivers. There are a few drivers unable to attend tonight due to other life and situation and illness and whatever else goes into world outside of sim racing. But it's great to see the cream of the crop here, and I'm looking forward to some excellent racing. The Kazan ring circuit does offer some fantastic action. And maybe we'll pop on board here with Steve Arnell to take us around. He's going through turn 1, a double apex right-hander, hook the apex up, use all the exit. He loses the rear of the car just a bit. You can see whether he can get that toe from David Rowe, who's just up ahead. So we head now into turn 2 then, a left-hand tight hairpin, opposite way round though, very, very late apex, leaving your inside open in those races to someone to make a dive up the inside. But you cannot use too many of the curbs on the track around here, otherwise you will get a track limits penalty. We're heading up the brow into a left-hand S-bend. Steve Arnell takes a sort of unusual line compared to everyone else, tucks it in nice and early. You must hook that apex, hold it as long as you can, because the most important corner is this left-hander coming out here. It takes us onto a massively long back straight, actually doubles as a runway, so you can imagine how long that has to be. We're trying to keep in David's toe then as we head down this long, I think probably about kilometre long straight into a left-hand 90 degree, relatively standard, but it's about picking your turning point, picking your braking point, hoping that you hook everything up. Steve Arnell nicely collects that apex and keeps it all within the bounds. We've got a flat-out left-hander, but it's only just, and it's only as long as you get the line absolutely right. Before then, the final section of corners, left-hand downhill, hooking this inside of this corner to see whether you can not compromise this final corner. This is a right-hander. You want to make sure you get every single last mile an hour out of that. We closed up on David Rowe on the exit of that corner, so we didn't set a best time yet, but we are third in the qualifying session, currently speaking, and thank you to Steve for making it round. As we see David Rowe not making it round, another perfect opportunity to watch the FP0 simulators sponsor David Rowe there, rotating out on track just behind Steve Arnell. Steve Arnell currently in that third place then, but it is the man who has dominated this season. Every race he's been in, he has absolutely run away and disappeared off into the distance, and he finds himself currently in that pole position. Paul Donkin in the red machine. See him here in the familiar red and white livery. We haven't seen him too much on the stream because he has been so fast. He's following along Gary Preble in that orange car, and Gary Preble capitulates, lets him go, and Paul Donkin continues on his way then, although it looks like Gary Preble might get his toe in revenge. Just in front of them, it's looks like that's Tom McEwing. He's not. He's in 13th place at the moment, so he's got a bit of time to find. Hasn't had as many chances to do laps as these other drivers. James Fowler, though, popped himself up into that second place. Currently 3/10 between him and pole position. There's plenty of opportunity for other drivers to get into that gap, and I'm sure they'll be trying to line themselves up for one of their last opportunities. So the lap time is a 1:27. They got 3 minutes, so they're going to get about 2 more laps before this qualification session is over. But it was Donkin that dominated in every single race, so we're seeing whether he can be overhauled at the final attempt. And also showing how unstable these cars are. There's a lot of gradient around this Kazan ring track, and a lot of the cars have sort of stability issues at the rear. When you're pushing to the absolute limit, the rear likes to step out on you, and that just costs you time. So we watch James Fowler currently down in that second place, seeing whether he can get anything more out of this car. We go on board with James Fowler. You can see his V-Box readout there, just to the left of the gear number that you can see, the bright red number 3. And then next to that, you've got a little readout, and it's showing a plus. So he's slightly down. In fact, he's now slightly improved on his previous best. We'll see as he goes down here, he's sort of 1/10th up on, 100th up on his previous best. So you see whether he can carry on. This is just like a drivers would have in real life. It gives them real-time readout of exactly how they're doing on that lap. So he goes around that 90-degree corner. Unfortunately, the V-Box goes into shade. And it's another problem that you have in real life as well. So absolutely, we try and simulate everything that it feels like to be a Caterham driver in this virtual race series. Really looking forward to seeing how everyone gets on this evening. There's some of the drivers have done all the rounds. Other drivers have sort of taken part here and there. And so it'd be good to see how all the best drivers throughout the course of the season all fare. Not an easy track not easy track to race at. There are overtaking opportunities though. The corners are often wide and sweeping, and additionally they often have an open sort of entrance, so the racing line is to the outside of the track. Here's a perfect example where you'll see Chris Gillicon keep to the outside of the track before then tucking late into that apex, and that will give drivers a little sniffing of opportunity up the inside as they go into corners like that. But it's unless it's a proper block pass, they do risk having slowing themselves down more than anything. So we're going to have another situation where drivers don't want to get out of the train of cars. So as they're running nose to tail, they want to sort of keep in that nose to tail formation as much as they can, because as soon as you pull out, whilst you may give yourself an opportunity for an overtake, you also open yourself up to be maneuvered out of that train and then lose a lot more places than you potentially gain. Gary Preble tonight in an orange car, and Will Rayson tonight is in the white car. So those two drivers that are sort of yet to assign their skin into the race series. Apologies, Will. He has sent me his skin and didn't get it in time for this evening. You can see this long distance shot of the drivers entering onto this back straight and all the markings that show that it is a runway. A little bit of a bumpy and gradient filled runway as well, isn't it? And there's a nice bridge to really catch the attention. I assume that does mean that in this virtual series certainly we'll have no cars there. So Alex Ball there briefly on our screen. Looks like he's got a bit of a connection issue there because he's just dropped off the server, but he will be back. Qualifying is just over, but he has got plenty of opportunity to get back in. He finds himself not setting a lap time yet, so maybe he's there he goes, back on the server again, and so he does pop into that 7th place. So he is starting from about mid-grid. Plenty of opportunity, though, for all these drivers to make manoeuvres up. You can see Paul Furnif's finished his session. It's just they're at pit exit before he pulls back into the pits. So drivers just finishing their last lapping opportunities. See a few of them all coming around onto the back straight. If you do cross the line before that time, you can see the timers next to the queue in the sort of upper right-hand quadrant of your screen. It is already ticked down to 0. So at the moment, it does look like Donkin has got this pole position with James Fowler, a great 2nd place, Tom Willis 3rd, Chris Gillicorn up in that 4th place. We just watched Will Rayson locking up there and heading off the pit, clearly deciding that lap wasn't his. Tom Willis seeing whether he could improve, just following along behind Skillicorn. Let's see whether any of those can make an impression as we go into this gap just before the race. 125-minute race running in the 420R race machinery. This simulates the Caterham 7 UK Championship car, the national level of Caterham Motorsports. Going for in the real world, they go for the title of British Caterham Champion. Here we're just going for the title of Series 11 Champion, but nevertheless that is a title which a lot of these drivers would like to take. So then as we head in after the qualifying session then, so confirmed that it is Paul Donkin that puts it onto that pole position, just ahead of James Fowler, with he's just ahead of David Rowe, just on that last gasp attempt, got across the line to put himself up into 3rd place. Then it comes Tom Willis, followed by Skillicorn, Arnell, Fernhoff, Preble, Ball and Oglesby rounding out the top 10. And then we're following up that with Will Rayson in 11th place, Anthony Hambleton in 12th, and Tom McEwing in 13th. Unfortunately, it looks like Dan Jude can't be with us in this grand final. So he did get a qualifying spot, but he wasn't able to join us this evening. So absolutely open, as we've seen throughout the course of this season. All the drivers on the server tonight are capable of getting into those top 3 positions. But it's Paul Donkin who's managed it more than anyone else. And he's been putting in plenty of practice laps. So his qualifying time in 127.3 in practice times, we've seen sort of 127.3. So he's actually matched his practice time and realised that in the testing. And yes, just 3 tenths behind for James Fowler. Say 5 rounds up until this point that the drivers have all partaken in, as we see them just getting out onto the grid. So let's just bring you out onto the grid with them. See this long front straight, but it pales into insignificance when you actually see the back straight and how long that one is. As we look them all nicely lined up then, 2 by 2 with Donkin in the red number 24 on the left of our screen. Then we've got James Fowler in the number 40 on the right, followed by the DPR Motorsport colours of David Rowe, a white, black and lime green. And then we have Tom Willis in the kind of sister car, same kind of colour scheme as James Fowler in front. James Fowler has the orange roll cage. Tom Willis has the red roll cage. Then I can see Skillicorn on the left-hand side in the black car with the red stripe up the middle. And then it's Arnell in the sort of yellow patchwork car. All looking to see what can they do about the grand final. The winner of this 25-minute race will take the crown of series champion. Let's hope that's not controversial. Let's hope they get round these opening laps and let's see a settle in for some excellent racing. I know that they're all capable of it, and I'm sure they're all eager to show what they're capable of this evening. As the lights then do come up on the screen and we wait for those to come out, as soon as they get those extinguished, we'll get this grand final up and running. Season 11 then at caterhamracer.com, round the Kazan ring. The lights are out and we're underway. A nice even start for the front of the grid, and everyone else looks like they're fanning out in accordance. Coming down then into turn 1, and that's a right-hander. Can they all get it pointing in the right direction? It's 4-5 wide. Paul Hernikoff had a little contact with Chris Skillicorn in the background there, but it looks like everyone has settled in, and it's looking like whilst the orders shuffled around, no one's facing the wrong way. Hopefully they won't have any damage. Donkin is currently ahead, but David Drove doing that move up that inside. Said it was a tight line. It's possible, and he has squeezed James Fowler out of the way, and he might lose a place now to Tom Willis as he's going down the inside as they head up the field. Arnell's looking down the inside of Skillicorn, who's still trying to recover that car. Alex Ball is alongside him. David Rowe sweeping down over the hill then, but it's Donkin who has already got a little bit of a gap over him. They've been having plenty of racing in the practice sessions beforehand, side by side a little bit further back between Arnell and Skillicorn still. They're going to organise who's going to do that, but they have lost a lot of time with that manoeuvre. Arnell down the inside then, but it's Donkin out front ahead of David Rowe. Then it's the 2 silver cars. Willis, it looks like he's going to lose out that place back to Fowler as they head down the straight. 3 wide behind them between Arnell and Alex Ball down the inside. Then we've got Chris Skillicorn around the outside. Arnell has to back out of that manoeuvre. Chris Skillicorn's going to sweep around the outside if he's got any room. Arnell does make it. Will Rayson behind spins, and that collects 3 of them. So that's Oglesby and Preble got sideways, and I think Ferneyhoff was included in that as well. So Rayson lost the rear of the car on the way out of the corner, and that cost him, and that's going to cost them the ability to keep up with this lead group. A really sad way for their final to end relatively early on, but they will have a great race, no doubt, between themselves to see what could happen. Tom McEwing looks like he's become a DNF then already, although we know he's showing back on the server again, so he had a bit of an issue, but he's back on the server. So we see this lead angry group then. Donkin's got that little bit of a comfort gap. We've seen it plenty of times before. Let's see whether David Rowe's got anything in the locker that he can pull out in the number 6 DPR Motorsport car to catch that gap back up. Then we got the twin cars of Fowler and Willis, those 2 running nose to tail. Behind them we've got a gap back to Alex Ball. Then it's Skillicorn and Arnell fighting out as they go up over the crest, this time into that S-bend down the hill. Must hug the left-hand corner. You see that Arnell carries more speed through that initial corner, but Chris Skillicorn then pulls a little bit of a gap as they head through this left-hander and back onto this long back straight. Keep an eye on the timing tower to the left-hand side of your screen. Anytime you see a driver with a 0.4 or 0.5 second or lower gaps, as we can see with James Fowler and Tom Willis on the left-hand side, they will be gaining a bit of a tow. The following car will be in the draft of the car in front. It will be gaining speed because of that. So keep an eye out for that. It's important in this simulator world. In the real world, we get a tow from about 2 or 3 seconds back, but in the simulator world, it starts kicking in about half a second back. So it's really important that the drivers stick to those kind of margins, really stick to the nose of the car in front to allow them to get that tow. As we watch the number 40 then taking us around that final bend to complete what is their second lap and heading on to their third now. Does look like the battle for second place is starting to come back together then. Is there anything they can do about Will Donkin and his 1.7 second lead? It's looking threatening again, isn't it? We've got that little air gap then back to Alex Ball, Chris Skillicorn and Steve Arnell. And then we've got 7 points or 8 seconds. David Rowe spun then up into the... just as he was trying to join that back straight. Unfortunately, that's David Rowe spun out of the lead group of these drivers. We saw the rear of the car stepping out in practice, and it looks like it's happened once more. Unfortunate there for Dave Rowe. Is there anything he can do? He's spun himself out of second position and now gives Paul Donkin a 3.6 second lead. As we come back onto this back straight, these laps happen quite quickly, don't they? In the 2.2 miles around this track, 3.5 kilometres. So not a long track, but it certainly packs a lot of corners and a lot of gradient into that relatively short gap. So it's now James Fowler who takes up the mantle of trying to see if there's anything he can do about Donkin ahead. It looks like Willis has lost the rear of Fowler for the time being. But Alex Ball is coming to play ball, isn't he? Is he the 47 car? Started midfield, but he's made his way up to 4th place in the early part of this race. And Skillicorn is dispatched with Arnell for the time being. We saw Arnell doing nice tidy laps in that practice and qualifying session that we hooked into. And that will see him good over the course of a 25-minute race. There's a lot of concentration, a lot of laps in between now and the time that we get to the checkered flag. And we've seen in earlier races of the season that the concentration you need in sim racing, just as it is in real life, is very intense. And we do see drivers who aren't quite used to that longer race length struggling just a touch. In the real world, we only drive the Seven Championship UK file for 20 minutes, given that it's slick tyres and race-focused setup means that its grip levels are incredibly high and it's physically demanding. So we race actually 3 20-minute races over the course of a race weekend in the Seven Championship UK car. But Donkin showing how experienced he is in this car. Our current Pro-Am champion, our current Am champion in the real life Seven Championship UK, really showing how he has got this car under control even in this virtual simulated world, and that's a very common sight. And we say each week that Donkin races with us, we look forward to seeing how he gets on in the Pro-Am Championship, racing for British Caterham champion next season throughout 2024. And we will, of course, at caterhamracer.com be offering a parallel season of Caterham action as we take you through the 2024 season, making racing as real as we can, as real true to life as we can. We'll follow the actual calendar and we'll follow the race as the real world drivers do go around these circuits. So we'll settle down then for this battle for second, but it is very much a battle for second. 4 or 5 drivers all looking to see what they can do. Chris Skillicorn is the closest behind Alex Ball here that we're watching. He's just about within that half-second gap, so he'll be looking to get a tow as he heads into this long back straight. So we get around these S-bends, and you can see him getting closer each time. Let's go on board then. We'll follow him as he's got a little bit of an extra acceleration there. Alex Ball lost the rear of the car, and you can see how much the car accelerates towards the rear as he pulls to the side and it's not giving him any more room than he needs to. He's absolutely planting his car up the inside. Gives enough room there. Alex Ball later on the brakes, but Chris Skillicorn has got that move done, although he's drifting quite wide, and that's going to give Alex Ball the inside for the next left-hander. So while Skillicorn won the battle, he did not win the war. A little bit of a uncomfortable rear slide again from Skillicorn's car there in the number 44, the black-red machinery, allowing Arnell, Caterham graduate racer Arnell, racing in what was the Supersport category in the real world Caterham ladder, and we'll be seeing what he can do as he heads into next season as well, 2024 season for him out there. Chris Gillicorn, also a real world racer, although has taken a few sabbatical years just doing bits and bobs here and there. As we head then into this tight left-hander. Feeds us out and up the hill and over this gradient, and say it's an absolutely blind apex. You have to trust that there's no cars facing the wrong way over the top of that gradient. Hug the inside. It's a great sequence of corners from the driving seat, and as the tarmac tumbles away from you down the hill, and really is all about trying to carry all that speed out here onto the long back straight. David Rowe still there in the background, but got quite a lot of work to do. 5 seconds to make up over the course of the next 16 minutes of this race. Paul Donkin's gap continues to grow wider out front. A little bit further back, we saw some issues early, didn't we, with Paul Fernioff getting caught up with that Will Rayson spin. He's been looking good through the tail end of the season. He's not far away from the David Rowe's rear panel either, so see whether those two can work together by the time they get to the end of this race. Certainly Paul will be working hard to see whether he can catch up with David Rowe to use his car as a leverage to try and get across that gap. Behind them we've got Oglesby in the lime green car, another car along with Preble that got caught out behind that incident. Hopefully Preble hasn't got any damage. We do run 70% damage, so not 100% damage, but enough that means if you make contact, significant contact, or you over rev your car, for example, you will damage the car over the course of the 25 minutes. Great to see Anthony Hambleton racing with us. He's been around for a number of years now, and an old karting friend of mine. Great to see him out here in the virtual world in the Caterham, enjoying his time and gaining speed with every single time he comes out on track. Tom McEwing has not had the best of races so far, has he? He finds himself in that 12th place then. Quite a significant gap back to him. Will Rayson, after that spin, is back in the pits, and it's going to be it does not finish. David Rowe and Paul Fernioff, though, have swapped position. What's happened to David Rowe? It looks like he's had another spin. He's been consumed and swallowed by Oglesby and Preble in the background. You can see as he comes down the straight then. So another occasion where he seems to have lost the rear of that car just as he was heading down through the S-bends, exactly where it happened before. Oglesby's got the momentum, but David Rowe does brace later on the brakes. Oglesby hangs around the outside as much as he can, but that just gives Preble the opportunity to come at the inside. So just as we saw earlier on, they're going to go side by side. There's contact there, so didn't allow racing room there. So Oglesby really should have left more racing room for Gary Preble at the inside. Looks like he's not capitulating though, so doesn't agree with that situation. We'll let those two duke it out with the stewards after the race is finished, but that gives David Rowe that position back, and comfortably so. Back at the front of the race though, or is it not the front of the race? We'll again having to disregard Paul Donkin, who is merrily on his way. You can see him here. We'll give him some airtime tonight just because we haven't really seen him at all this season, and you can see in his bright red, very familiar livery, his very accurate lines, and so in practice he is losing the rear, spinning quite a lot, so obviously in the practice session pushing as hard as he can to figure out exactly where every single limit of this 420R machine is, so that he can dial it back just those few notches. As the time we get to this race, he can concentrate on every single braking point, every single turn in, and every single acceleration out of the corners, and that means he's carrying his car to a 6.6 second lead over the chasing James Fowler at the moment. All still to play for. There's still 13 minutes though, so who knows whether Donkin can keep it all pointing in the right direction for that length of time. Fowler though is going to be ready to pick up the pieces should something go wrong for Donkin. He can find himself in that second place, but we've got that battle for the 5th and 6th place between Arnell and Skillicorn. We keep seeing Skillicorn making a few little mistakes. Arnell locks up that time into turn 1, but he did close up the gap, so whilst he was locked up, he was just on the absolute ragged limit of what it's possible to do. You see Chris Skillicorn here, and let's go on board with Arnell as we're following into this tight left hand. You can see the wide line that Arnell was able to take. He was feigned that he was going up the inside to try and compromise Chris Skillicorn's line, but that Chris Skillicorn got a good exit anyway regardless. So you see that alternate line that Arnell takes here, slightly tucked on the inside of where Chris Skillicorn really sweeps from the outside of the track, the more traditional line you'd say, and Arnell decides and chooses to have a slightly more compromised line to carry all that speed through this last corner. It's just got to pick out exactly where you want to get back on that accelerator. You don't want to get out the accelerator just as you're coming onto a back straight. You will absolutely destroy your lap time. So as we go on board, you can see that V-Box timer, 2/10 getting as the toe pulls us back in. It was 2/10 and now it's 1.8, so okay, a couple of hundredths just the toe is worth as we come into the tail end of the lap. As we lead round this left-hander, then goes downhill. You've got to get on the brakes. You've got to understand whether you want to drift a little bit wide and compromise this right-hander or whether you want to stick to the left of the track there. Both Chris and Arnell taking a similar compromise line. Chris Gillicorn seeing the need to defend to the inside then as we go on board to the action as it's happening. This is the closest battle that we've got out on the track at the moment, and let's see how Steve Arnell manoeuvres himself. You see the rev range going up. He's looking to see whether he can do anything. The racing line is the outside line out here, but Chris Gillicorn is up the inside. That's going to stop us getting to the apex. Chris Gillicorn takes a compromised line, but he's able to get on that power, so regardless of not taking quite the ideal racing line, he is able to carry that speed and actually carries a little bit more speed as we head on up again around this series of S-bends. Arnell taking that tight line once more as Chris Gillicorn sweeps across. You catch up a little bit in the middle there, but we lose out on this left and right, so right and left as we head onto the straight. So that does tend to, overall, it seems to compromise, but Steve obviously taking that line because he finds overall he's more consistent with it, but at the moment we are outside of that toe range, so we will not be catching up as we get to the tail end of this start-finish, or to the back straight this time through. So on for the ages. So all these battles, you can see how it's really important just to every single apex, every single corner, trying to maximise your car's speed whilst racing alongside and trying to work out what's the tactic here. And that's what years of real-world race experience or years of simulator experience will count. And a lot of the drivers here tonight have been racing simulators for many, many years. And like I say, a lot of them are also drivers who drive out there in the real world. These two, Fowler and Willis, have raced many a time in the real world throughout their academy and into road sport 270s, and they've both been nose to tail in real world, and Tom Willis there following along behind Fowler. He will get in front of him, but they're very rarely seen apart on tracks. Are so similar and very familiar with each other's driving styles and actions out there, which obviously translates from the real world into the simulator world as well. Everyone else is spread out, so that Will race and sort of spin early on did really put the cat amongst the pigeons as far as close action, but we are watching the tightest battles on the field. If anyone else starts getting closer, we will go and monitor those as well, but Arnell's just slipped to 6/10, so this is now the tightest battle out on the circuit, with Willis now within 3/10 of Fowler. So whereas on previous qualifying events and the Last Chance Saloon, everyone was looking for that qualifying space and therefore maybe a little bit more reserved as they became up to an overtake. Tonight it's all about the win, as Donkin seems to have that relatively sewn up at this stage. The overtaking is a little bit more free as we see Skillicorn drifting very wide in the background. There are track limits on this circuit, and he may, if he gets given a penalty by the race steward, he will have to slow up, and it means he has to get off the throttle for 5 seconds, and that will cost him dearly in this race. But at the moment it looks like that hasn't happened. So we watch Fowler having to defend to the inside then. Complicated left hand hairpin, that one. You really have got to hang it out wide and get the speed just bled off enough so that you can tuck into the apex. We watch Fowler around the outside of these downhill sweepers. Again, every single corner here matters as far as one feeds into the other. Fowler was a little bit late in the line, so he's going to lose speed as he comes out onto the straight. This does give Willis a little bit of a sniff and opportunity because he's going to have a few more miles an hour, and he is just within that half a second. So he will, by the end of the straight, be a bit closer than he did when he started, although Fowler still seems to have managed to get that power down quite nicely. Thank you very much. Alex Ball then in that 4th place. We just saw his rear of his car sliding out in the background as he pushes hard to see whether there's anything he can do about the drivers in front to get closer to the tandem of Willis and Fowler, but also having to keep an eye on his mirrors because Skillicorn is not too far back, but he's sufficiently not made enough mistakes currently to have to look in his mirrors too hard. He's certainly not having to defend at this point. As Arnell still seeing whether there's anything he can do about Skillicorn. He's really close. He's strong through this section of the track, isn't he? He closes right up with Skillicorn as they go through these two hairpins. Skillicorn again takes that slightly compromised line. This time Arnell is absolutely nose to tail with him as they head over this brow. You know he likes that inside line, but he's going to tuck to the outside this time. Skillicorn does give him the racing room around the outside. That's going to be not the Skillicorn normal line, and Arnell is going to have to slightly adjust his line as he heads down here. Again, he loses just a little bit as they go through this left-hander. Steve Arnell well within the limits and therefore keeping his car sort of far away from the race steward's office as he can, but unfortunately it just costs him a little time as they head into this crucial back straight. You can see he is catching very, very slowly, but just not enough to be able to do anything about it. But it's great to be able to come on board and in the actual action. Skillicorn out wide, then loses the rear. That's going to give Arnell this opportunity to come up the inside then into this left-hander. It's a absolutely flat-out left-hander, but Skillicorn's going to have to now see whether he can do anything about Arnell as they go through the lap. So this is completing their 13th and coming on to their 14th lap. Just under 6 minutes of this race then left to go. Behind, Anthony Hamilton's just overtaken Tom Queuing. So Gary Prebbles had to go back to the pits. So unfortunately the damage on his car was enough that's cost him his race finish. Willis as close as you like. Nothing between these two drivers then. Let's go up into the helicopter. You can see there's absolutely nothing between these two drivers as they head up into the S-bends then. It's Willis looking around the outside of Fowler. They're actually overlapping as they come into that corner. Willis knows he's got to capitulate and give that place to Fowler as they come through the middle, but he's just trying to act interference. He's going to come onto this back straight. Absolutely nose to tail then with Fowler. He's well within that toe. Watch that tenth of a second disappear. 1.3, 1.2. Closing. He moves to the outside. James Fowler absolutely defended down the inside. We come to that 90-degree left-hander. We're side by side as we head in then with Willis around the outside, but Fowler's going to protect on the inside. That is going to cost him a little bit of speed. Is the up and under possible? No. Fowler's got absolutely gets that power down and managed to eke out the grip at the rear of that car magically out of nowhere. I'm sure that'll be frustrating for Willis, but he is closer than he has been for a little while now and seeing whether there's anything he can do. Meanwhile, still slipping back from Donkin out front then, who is in the 127s. They're still in the 128s. All this action and battling left and right is costing them actual race lap time, and that's giving Donkin a free pass to stroll around through these last 4 minutes. Alex Ball is disappearing further back down the field from these two. They've still got extra speed over and above Alex Ball. He's got 4 minutes to see whether he can find any lap time at all. Willis once again absolutely nose to tail then, heading up then into the S-bends, over the crest, into the blind apex. He jinked to the outside, feigned that he was going to go around the outside, then absolutely did the dummy pass down the inside. Great move from Willis there to feign the pass to the outside. Unfortunately, that's going to put him ahead just as the toe's going to start kicking in. But this time he gets an absolute screamer out that final corner. He's drifted wide onto the grass. He carried too much speed. That's going to cost him all those miles an hour, and it's going to be James Fowler this time looking to see whether he can do anything around the outside then as they come down this drag strip of a straight. And in fact, he's got it done even before they get into that qualifying position. Tom Willis is going to go back down the inside. He eased off those brake pedal to see whether he can do it. He's going to use every little inch of that curb on the outside, and Fowler's going to go up the inside once more to protect that inside, and Willis is going to spend more time with this lap off the circuit than on it, trying everything he can, every little rule, and he's pushing every single margin he can on the track, and that has absolutely let Alex Ball catch all the way up with them. But Willis still finds himself staring at the back of Fowler's car, who's been resolute in his defence as we watch Skillicorn and Arnell just behind them also pushing as hard as they can. Willis locking up that tyre. In the real world, that might cost you because the slick shod Seven Championship UK car will then have a flat spot on it. But in this virtual world where we run limited damage, that's not the case. We shall keep an eye on this battle, which is developing nicely for second place, seeing whether Alex can do anything about the two drivers in front. While we do just give another bit of credence down here to Paul Donkin, who's already out onto the back straight before the others were even heading through the S-bend. He is 12 seconds down the line, looking like he's coming up to back markers to deal with rather than concentrating on anything in his rearview mirror. He's almost all the way down this straight before the chasing group actually join it. And here is that chase group then. A shame for the drivers behind that they have sort of faded away a little bit. Ferneyhoff 8 seconds behind this gap, and he's still got a comfortable 4 seconds over David Rowe, and Oglesby drifted to 10 seconds behind Rowe. Then it's Hamilton another 9 seconds or so off the back. So it's spread out very after that spin early on. Say we do run damage, so contact in those early stages unfortunately can cost you if your steering goes offline or one of your components starts failing. But these two have certainly given us plenty of action, and when they haven't been giving us the action, it's been Arnell and Skillicorn. It's Arnell currently ahead of Skillicorn, still after that long protracted battle going backwards and forwards, and they could all yet still come together, but we have only got a minute left of this race as they're heading up here. So this will be their penultimate lap, I believe. They will get, I think Donkin will get back to the start-finish straight. Willis feigning to the inside once more in the 81 car there to see whether he can do anything. And then it's still nothing to be done. In fact, Willis that time has drifted back to Alex Ball, giving Fowler a little bit of an air gap. 32 seconds then for Donkin to get back over the line. We'll follow him because it might be quite close. On board as he sweeps through these final corners. 22 seconds. We should get round for one more lap of this Kazan ring, the 2.2 mile circuit. 15 seconds. There's quite a long way down to the start-finish straight, but I don't think it's going to take him 10 seconds to get there. So indeed, he does now go on to his final lap. It's been an absolutely dominant season for Paul Donkin. He is a brand new car put together by Steve Arnell for us using the new championship specs, and Paul Donkin has absolutely loved and used all his real world experience and understands the car and really has gelled very nicely. Every single race he's been part of, he has scampered off up the road, so plenty of the other drivers are going to have to work out what is Donkin doing to extract this speed and time out of it. See whether they can in the coming seasons do anything about this dominance. We have a number of the race cars all mapped out for our caterhamracer.com service. If you haven't been with us for previous seasons, well, we've got the other Caterham cars in the garage as well, and other drivers may be preferring some of the other alternate handling characteristics, but it is Donkin who has absolutely got the Seven Championship UK car. David Rowe pulling into the pits before we even finished, just noticing there on the left-hand side. It's all spread out in that following group as well. So we can enjoy this last few corners of Donkin through Season 11. Unless he throws something extremely stupid in the way now, it is going to be Donkin who takes our Season 11 championship title. Takes the crown, and well-deserved it has been too. So here he comes then, across the line. Donkin is our Series 11 champion. Dominant season, dominant driver, and a well-deserved win there. Season 11 champion here at caterhamracer.com, the 420R Winter Race Series. James Fowler does come across the line then in second, with Tom Willis, Alex Ball, Steve Arnell and Chris Skillicorn rounding out that top six, and where most of the action has been tonight. Unfortunately, that first corner incident, Paul Fernier coming across that gap quite nicely, but just a race not long enough for him coming across in that 7th place. All the action was kind of curtailed by that incident, which is going to be a shame, and I'm sure they'll have a lot to talk about, but that is the way it goes when it's a winner takes all. Oglesby we also saw caught up in that incident coming across the line there in 8th. And then we're just waiting, and quite a long gap here before Anthony Hambleton coming across the line. Then we'll have Tom McEwing as well. And in the background, see the drivers all having fun out there, as drivers will do. You can hear some donuts happening. See this between Fowler and Skillicorn, enjoying the end of season. We're waiting for Anthony Hamilton then. Here he comes around that final corner. In fact, that is Tom McEwing, so Anthony Hamilton's already across. The rest DNF'd. So let's head back to the pits and confirm that result for you. Paul Donkin, our Series 11 champion, with 18 laps around this Kazan ring, takes the crown, takes the win in dominant form, 13.3 seconds ahead of James Fowler, who took a great second place. Tom Willis in third place. Good battles from then. Alex Ball fourth, Steve Arnell fifth. Then it was Chris Skillicorn, Paul Fernhoff, Oglesby, Hamilton, and McEwing, with David Rowe, Gary Preble, Will Rayson, and Dan Jude all DNFing. Congratulations then to all our drivers. But let's see whether we can have a chat with our top three in the pits. Let me get that all sorted. See whether first we can talk to Tom Willis. I'm not sure whether he's got I don't think Tom Willis has got audio, so let's go and talk to James Fowler, who was second place. Mr. Fowler, have you got us in the commentary box?
I have indeed. How are you doing?
Well, pretty good. Other than that pesky Donkin, you had a great race, and it was really fun to watch you. What was a massive defensive effort throughout pretty much the whole race, right?
Yeah, it was good. Tom kept me so honest, and just the pace that we're all running at, and you just the tiniest little slip-ups, and you get paid for it, and then you have to race like it, and then you've got to be side by side. It's just a great race, and it's such a tricky circuit that you know when all the practicing that goes into it, how tricky it is to get around the circuit, and then do it offline and then race. It was really good.
I say a lot of effort by all you drivers putting in, to do that practice, to get used to it, to know every single in and out of the circuit. And we did see a few incidents early for the sort of midfield, but you were ahead of it, so you just see that disappearing off in your rearview mirror.
Yeah, which is what I wanted, was just not be in the mid pack, and then I knew I was fairly consistent hot lapping, but Tom was just keeping me honest and just reining me in still. So it was just keep pushing all the way through the race.
Like I say, it would have been great to be talking to you now with all that as a champion, but
I know.
Unfortunately, pesky Donkin, and I think we better go and have a chat to him. But congratulations, we look forward to seeing you.
He deserves it. He is so quick and consistent.
We will have to eke out of him the secrets of his success, because he's making you all need to find those extra tenths.
Yeah, trying. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing you at future events, and congratulations on second place.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
And Mr. Donkin, have you got me in the commentary box?
I have, Chris. How are you doing?
Another scamper off, lights to flag victory. Very little in the way other than yourself, and what a great victory, and Series 11 champion.
Yeah, thank you. Hard fought. You left the hardest track to last. It was extremely difficult, very, very tricky track, so thanks for that.
I saw you in practice and qualifying. The rear of the car really is unstable, isn't it? I guess you just had the luxury at the end of that race just to dial it back that peg or two, just to keep it all under control.
You think that, I considered it, but that's kind of when mistakes happen, isn't it, usually? So I just kept pushing and pushing. It felt fine, under control. I was just locking my front left tyre everywhere, but there's no tyre wear on the sim, so we got away with it. Darren
Burke will be proud of you saying, push on, that's the only way. And and I guess for whatever it's worth, the online racing, I guess it keeps you fresh, and we'll get another season in, I'm sure, before you get out there for real next year.
Yeah, if we can, that'd be fantastic. Obviously, I think I speak for us all when we all say how much we appreciate what you do, Chris. It's fantastic. So I look forward to the next one, but I'll enjoy this championship for now.
Yeah, definitely take it and enjoy it, and congratulations to our season 11 champion then, Paul Donkin.
Thanks again, Chris. Cheers.
And there we go then. That is the season done and dusted. 6 rounds, and Paul Donkin, as we said, absolutely dominating that. Great to see him out there. Looking forward to bringing you more action as we head into the new year. We'll get some more action before the season starts for real, but we will be with you again following the main Caterham Motorsport ladder season all the way through 2024. So if you're not liked and subscribed yet, why not get that done on YouTube? We'll bring you all the action live with live commentary as well, as close as we can get it to the real thing. Enjoyed taking this. Enjoyed taking you through all of the action throughout the course of the season. Chris Hutchinson in the commentary box, and we'll be back with more. See you soon.